Now look, I love smart home tech as much as anyone, but when I started to add more and more devices to my smart home, I started to get various devices becoming unresponsive or slow to respond.
I didn't hear back from some of your devices.
Maybe you've had the same thing. But there's nothing more annoying than getting home from a long day of work and then having to shut the circuit breaker down and then turn it back on to sort of restart your light switches. So I did a little troubleshooting to fix my individual issues, but it turns out there's really a bigger issue going on here that a number of the companies that I love for my smart home tech in my home were already trying to solve.
In my opinion, a smart lighting product, it needs to work 100% of the time in order to really compete against the old school flip switch.
Wi-Fi is great for things like a camera where you need a lot of bandwidth, but really for a smart plug, for example, it's really wasting a lot of energy, and you kind of don't want to have a dozen smart plugs in your Wi-Fi. The more you add, the less stable your Wi-Fi gets.
So if the Wi-Fi that you use to get your laptop online or stream video from your security camera isn't the best to connect your smart plug or smart lighting or sensors, then which of the many other different wireless standards or protocols is the best one for this kind of job?
But when we started thinking about creating bulbs, we realized that Wi-Fi, it wasn't the technology that made the most sense. And we looked at other things like, Bluetooth and Zigbee. But when we started talking to Apple about it, they were like, hey guys, you guys are making bulbs? Like, let's talk here. And then they shared with us their plan on going all in with Thread. And so we actually completely shifted gears and we started working on a Thread product with Apple in order to align with their HomePod Mini launch.
So Thread is a common protocol or standard that allows devices, maybe even from different manufacturers, across your smart home to connect and form this crisscrossing mesh network. And this looks and works a lot like how the internet that you're using to watch this YouTube video actually works. But where did it come from? To figure this out, I talked to Jonathan Hui. He's a principal engineer at Google, the vice president of technology at the Thread Group, and the maintainer and head of the Open Thread project.
This was back before my time at Nest, but back in 2011, 2012, shortly after Nest released the smart learning thermostat, the goal was really just to go way beyond just the thermostat itself. Nest really wanted to build an ecosystem of products that work really well together. So Nest, said they wanted an internet-based protocol. They wanted something that was secure. They wanted something low power, something that was resilient. Nest at the time was a small startup. They went and talked with other organizations, product vendors, technology vendors, and they all agreed that there wasn't such a, technology that existed. That was really the formation of the Thread Group. The Thread Group is a nonprofit organization that is responsible for maintaining that Thread specification, and it also serves as a certification body to ensure that products that do carry that Thread label have good quality. Now, OpenThread is an open source implementation of Thread that was originally released by Google and Nest. It's hosted on GitHub, so anybody that's willing to try the technology out or actually employ the technology in their products or just want to learn more can have access to it.
And in November of 2020, Apple released the HomePod Mini, complete with a Thread radio. In 2021, they added a Thread radio to the Apple TV 4K as well. These new products are bringing Thread support to millions of Apple smart homes around the world.
Then Thread came along, and it has the best of all technologies. It's super energy efficient. It has these mesh characteristics that up until now, you basically needed to use a bridge and something like Zigbee to achieve something similar. And it is natively supported through HomeKit.
Now, unlike Wi-Fi or other standards where maybe as you add more devices, your network just gets more burdened, with Thread, the more devices you add, the stronger your network of Thread devices gets across your home.
Let's say you have a really simple network with like a HomePod Mini and then a door and window sensor at your door, and in the middle of those two devices you have an Eve Energy, for example. The door and window sensor will be smart and see, okay, the Eve Energy is much closer. I'll connect through that and send my commands to that device, and then you might go ahead and just remove that Eve Energy. Thread automatically detects these kinds of things and will choose a different route. So in that case, the door and window sensor will just talk to the HomePod, even though the connection quality might not be as good as it was before.
But what's actually going on behind the scenes? Well, it turns out that the Thread devices actually have a few different roles that they fit into.
A router in the Thread terminology is really just a device that can extend the range of your Thread network. From a radio perspective, a Thread router only has a 15.4 radio, IEEE 802.15.4, which is the radio that Thread requires. Because it only has that radio, it can only communicate with other Thread devices. But as a router, I can have two devices that are very far apart. The router or a number of routers can be sitting in between that help forward that message across that large, physical distance. Now, a border router is what allows Thread networks to attach to other networks like your Wi-Fi network or Ethernet or something else, even cellular. The border routers naturally have more than one radio within them, including Wi-Fi or Ethernet or cellular.
The third category of devices is end devices, where you can have things like a door and window sensor, the Eve door and window, or the Eve weather station. Usually these kinds of devices are battery powered, so you don't want to give them the burden, let's say, of passing on traffic from other devices as well. So they will just talk to the nearest router node.
So it's nice that Thread can make devices in our smart home work better together, but we still have to look for those badges at the store of works with Apple HomeKit or Amazon Alexa or Google Nest, whatever ecosystem we're trying to get our devices to work with. And that's really where Thread is a step toward the future, because it's one of the wireless foundations for Matter. And Matter is a new standard for companies like Amazon, Google, and Apple, and many others to make accessories that can talk to each other. So then, as long as you have Matter compatible accessories, you can choose whichever smart home platform you might want to use to control them, like Apple HomeKit.
Like, this is a huge deal because it actually makes it so that consumers can benefit. It's like you buy a product, you don't have to worry about whether it's compatible with your ecosystem or not. You just know that it will work with all.
There will be firmware updates to all Thread-enabled Eve devices, enabling them to support Matter. So whenever Matter is ready and the certain device categories are ready for our devices, that will be truly awesome for the user, because then there will be another free firmware update and the devices will just keep on getting better. That is enabled by Thread first and foremost. This is like the biggest leap for the smart home that we're seeing right now.
Apple has added Matter support in beta for their iOS 15 and related releases this year. Now, if you're interested in finding some products for your smart home that support Thread, I have a playlist linked here on the screen, and I'll be adding to that over time, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.